Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick with me? Famous scenes with drama queens and heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, the popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Hi there, and welcome into Meet Me in the Movies. This is Thomas Manning, and as far as hosting duties are concerned, I am rolling solo today, but we do have a very special guest, filmmaker Angus Maclachlan, North Carolina-based director from Winston-Salem, just up the road, and we're talking about his film A Little Prayer, starring David Strathairn and Jane Levy. And this is one of my very favorite movies of 2025, and one that was an immense undertaking for him, just with all the obstacles that he ran into, a super indie film. And in order to bring this to fruition, it took pretty much his blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm glad that we have this film, A Little Prayer. I'm going to provide y'all a quick review of it before I pitch it to the interview. But you may remember, if you watched the Oscars back in, I think it was March of 2020, filmmaker Bong Joon-ho, he was accepting the Best Director Oscar for Parasite. And he was paraphrasing the one and only Martin Scorsese, and he said, "The most creative is the most personal." And I think when you look to that idea, that is what is present in A Little Prayer. As I said, directed by Angus Maclachlan. It's a slice of life family drama, and it has such patience in the way it looks at these conflicts, these intergenerational conflicts within just this single middle class family. So it's very specific, but very universal as well. It kind of asks us to reflect on the dynamics that we're seeing within this family and where we've seen that in our own lives, in our own relationships, with friends and family that we communicate with and interact with on a daily basis. I think when you look at the DNA of this film and how quiet and restrained it is something that we can all just point to various moments over the course of our lives where we know that person, we know that conversation, we know that situation and how that person has responded to that situation. And that's why I go back to that quote from Scorsese that the most creative is the most personal. This was shot and produced regionally in Winston-Salem, and it's a movie that I've kind of found myself waking up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about, just from small moments and moments that take on a whole new meaning once you take a step away from them. And it's really a movie about two people seeing each other, two people seeing each other from perspectives that they kind of had to step outside of their own body to see that. And I'm, once again, very glad that we have movies like this still getting made, and I hope they continue to be made. You can find this movie available on VOD and digital, available now for purchase and for rent. And I think it's one that not just North Carolina families and not just people who can, relate to the regional aspect of this, but people all across the country and really all around the world can find something within this movie that will speak to their heart. And honestly, I'm going to give A Little Prayer a really strong A plus. And there's not a single frame I'll change about it. And just glad that I got a chance to sit down with director Angus Maclachlan. I'm going to pitch that conversation right now, and we get a little bit into a lot of stuff. We get into some of the themes, the theme of this relationship, this central relationship between a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law, and how that's not the typical approach that you would build a story around, but I think it works to perfection here. We also talk about just the gorgeous, deep, lush greens of a North Carolina summer, which are captured here by the cinematographer. And we talked about the casting and how this was a showcase for some of the finest actors working today and some of the finest actors of multiple generations. So thank you all so much for watching and listening on Meet Me in the Movies as we talk with director Angus Maclachlan about A Little Prayer. Hope you all enjoy the conversation. All right. Well, Angus, I'm Thomas Manning. I'm a film critic from North Carolina. I'm just a little bit south of Winston. I'm in Cleveland County, Shelby, North Carolina, and so bordering South Carolina, but really happy to have you here and happy to be talking with a North Carolina filmmaker like yourself.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll start out. I know Winston-Salem has been your home for your entire life, or for most of your life, from what I understand. And so when you were crafting this film, how did you figure out, exactly which neighborhoods and which areas of Winston-Salem that you kind of wanted to build the story around?
Well, the neighborhood that it's set in and where we filmed it is called Connock Hills. And I knew of it as a kid. I had two friends who lived there, who incidentally were Moravians, which figure in the film. And when I started writing the script, I just imagined it taking place there. It's a really interesting neighborhood. I think it was built around after the Second World War, and it's very solid. It's very American. It feels very safe. The trees, which are now 80 years old, are beautiful and large. What's interesting about it now is that it's very mixed. It has older people who live there a long time, some younger people. It has a lot of Hispanic people and Black people, and also other ethnic types. And you don't really see that very often in a lot of places, especially in Winston-Salem, where it's really integrated in an interesting way.
Yeah, and the relationship within this film that most of it's built around is this father-in-law and daughter-in-law, David Strathairn's character and Jane Levy's character. And I feel like that was an interesting choice. That's not a relationship that we often see explored cinematically, or at least to the level that we have in here. So kind of how did you arrive at, finding that emotional core between those two characters?
I thought it was interesting. I often think it's interesting in families where the closeness isn't who you would expect. I wrote this film called Junebug, and in that film, Amy Adams' character loses her baby, and in the hospital, it's her brother-in-law when you would think it would be her husband. And at home, it's his new wife with her father-in-law who sort of comfort each other. So I just think it's interesting when that kind of thing happens. And I realized actually, in retrospect, that I was really writing about my experience with my own daughter growing up and becoming an adult, and the feeling that you still want to tell them what to do and protect them and you can't anymore.
And with your casting director, Mark Bennett, you mentioned Junebug. I think that's how far back y'all go. So y'all have known each other for quite some time.
Right.
And with the work that Mark did on this film, which of the was there a specific casting choice you think that was just kind of an unexpected choice that you thought really made a significant impact?
Yeah, I absolutely do have one. I mean, he did cast. I had a relationship with Celia Weston and David Strathairn, but he brought Will Pullen to me. I didn't know him. He suggested Jane Levy, but the one that's surprising to me was Ashley Shelton, who plays Bethany, the friend of Narcidalia, and I had cast actually another woman to begin with. And after we started shooting, another actor got COVID. And so we had to switch our shooting schedule. And because of that, I lost the first woman who was cast as Bethany. And so I was like, what am I going to do? So I contacted Mark Bennett and said, what am I going to do? And he suggested Ashley Shelton, who put herself on tape. And, I cast her like in a day, and specifically because he had brought her to me. And I can't imagine anybody else being better. She's so wonderful in that role. And she lives, I think, in Knoxville, Tennessee. She came from, I think, Knoxville.
Yeah. And I definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about Jane Levy, who you nominated from the Film Independent Spirit Awards for Best Supporting Performance, and you yourself, I know, nominated for Best Screenplay. So congrats! But with Jane Levy in this film, I thought her scenes where she is on the verge of tears were just very powerful and something that we can all relate to, just kind of holding back that dam from bursting. And there's two scenes in particular when she's at the abortion clinic, and then later on when she's on the bench with David. For those two moments right there, I was just curious if you could kind of speak to what you saw just from her as an actor in those, and why why it made such an impact on the viewer in the way that it did.
Yeah, well, she's amazing in that, and there, in the one that the first one you mentioned, the shot is just a one shot on her where the camera almost goes 360 degrees around her, and I really had always imagined that the camera would just be on her, and you'd hear the practitioner off screen, and then I devised with my director of photography. She's amazing in those scenes, and in that scene, I think it would be really interesting for someone to study how many emotions and thoughts goes through her head in such a short period of time. She sort of is talking to the nurse practitioner, and then she's thinking, and she kind of smiles, and she cries, and then she really gets, released, and then she pulls herself together, and she sort of shakes her head at herself and the emotion. It's kind of just amazing to me. And then the second scene on the bench at the end, I often will say that we shot that on the fourth day of our 19-day shoot. So David and Jane didn't even know each other that well. I mean, they'd certainly met each other, and I think they'd done some scenes together. So it's just a testament to them both as actors to be able to have that emotion and that much relationship without any, time to really prepare it except for their own work. And Jane has said that David Strathairn is the kindest actor she's ever worked with, and so it wasn't hard for her, she says, to open her heart to him. And they're both wonderful in that scene.
Yeah, and in that moment where she says something along the lines of, "I feel sorry for David, but I have to leave." I just think there's so much humanity to that statement. It takes so much strength to recognize the that dichotomy there, that she, as much as she loves him, she has to do this for herself. So I thought that was just such a gorgeous moment.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jane has said, which I think is really interesting, that she wishes she was as strong as Tammy, and that she really recognizes that Tammy's choices are really hard choices. Um, and I think that's great because also it's interesting to me to think of or try to create a character who ostensibly or on the outside you don't think of as being a strong person because she's not an aggressive person. And there's such a difference between aggression and strength. And she's very quiet and she's very nice. And as she says in that last scene, people think that she's like timid like a mouse, and she isn't. So, I mean, Jane did it so wonderfully and embodied that person so strongly.
yeah. And right before that scene, David and Jane's characters visit an art museum, and they don't really talk a lot during this scene, but they're kind of just floating through the space, and I guess the art is kind of speaking to them and between them. Was that kind of what you were going for in that moment?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the Ronaldo House Museum of Art here in
yeah,
Winston-Salem. And right before that is sort of a really down moment in the story where it's when the father, played by David Strathairn, comes home and he's drinking a little bit after having seen Narcidalia and thinking that he hasn't done anything to help anyone. And he comes to bed to his wife's side. And then you see again, the camera going down the street and you hear the score, and then it cuts out very abruptly. And it's when usually in the film you would think you were going to hear the unseen singer, which to me is sort of like Grace. But at that moment in these two characters' lives, they can't find a connection to Grace. And so when when David's character, Bill, takes Tammy to this museum and she says that she's never been there before, he shows her art and somehow and then they read the little legend beside the painting, the Andes of the Ecuador by Frederick Law Church, that says about its panorama, and it's about looking in a larger way to sort of transcend your own grief or your own difficulty and to see a bigger picture, and then at the very end, that's what she says when she looks out into the greensward, the lawn in front of the museum, that here's a panorama right here. And hopefully it's that, yes, things are not resolved completely. It's going to be hard, but she's seen something. And I wanted it to be that he brings her to art because that's what art does for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it does for me as well. And that's why I love films like this that really pinpoint that. And you mentioned the kind of unseen singer, the neighbor. We hear her song coming through the neighborhood, and that's the first thing we hear in the film. Was that pulled from something you've experienced that just felt like very specific? I imagine it came from something personal for you.
Yeah, I had a friend who lived in New York that I would go stay with sometimes, and he lived right on Washington Square South. And there was some woman that would walk down the street at 5:30 a.m. every day and sing at the top of her lungs, and it would reverberate off the buildings, and she couldn't sing very well. And I would always run to the window to try to see her, and I could never see her, which I thought was funny and mysterious and odd. And so I took that and put it into this story. And as I said, to me, it sort of is the intention is that she's kind of like Grace, and that Tammy and Bill feel that, and she's sort of bothersome to everyone else in the family.
All right, well, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Meet Me in the Movies as we talk with Angus Maclachlan, director of A Little Prayer. We're going to take a quick break and we will come right back with more of the conversation.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Your sweet smile is warmer than the sun in the sky. The light in your eyes makes my world come alive. I'm feeling joy, feeling joy. Joy is in the air, alright. I'm feeling joy, feeling joy. Ooh, it's such a beautiful life. I'll be here for you. You'll be there for me. Oh, it feels so good to help somebody. It's nothing but joy. Feeling joy, feeling joy. Joy's upon you and I. I'm feeling joy, feeling joy. Joy makes such a beautiful life.
As Cleveland County's premier event facility, LeGrand Center is the ideal location for any event. The LeGrand Center is located 45 minutes west of Charlotte, 45 minutes north of Spartanburg, and just a little over an hour east of Asheville. Whether you're a small business looking for a place for an off-site meeting or a bride looking for that special location for her wedding, LeGrand Center is the perfect place for you.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hi there, and welcome back into Meet Me in the Movies. We're here speaking with filmmaker Angus Maclachlan about A Little Prayer, North Carolina film shot right down the road in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So, hope you all enjoy the second half of this conversation with Angus, and I'll pitch it right over to that. Yeah, and I was really taken by the score as well. I think your composer was Greg Danner. And on at least on IMDb, I think this was his first film credit. So how did you find him, and what stands out to you about Greg's work here?
Well, it's funny. Actually, Phil Morrison, who's a great friend of mine who directed Junebug, he suggested him out of the blue. He had only heard like one of his pieces of music, and I contacted him, And he teaches at a college in, I think, Tennessee. And his composition mostly is band music. And so he'd never done anything like this. And I just asked him about it. And I didn't want particularly Southern banjo-y kind of music. And I didn't want kind of treacly sentimental piano music. And so we talked a lot about inspirations. And I really love Mike Lee as a film director. And I love his music, which is usually a small chamber um, group that plays. And so he listened to some of that. And then what was great about him is that he never done it before. And he's a very nice man. And he would send me some things and I'd say, oh, that's not quite right. Or could we just use this very beginning thing? Or could we just take out this part? And he would work really quickly. And he had no defensiveness, like, no, that's the way I've written it. It should be like this. So it turned out to be a really nice collaboration.
Yeah. And you mentioned your DP, Scott Miller, a few times, and something I was really taken by with his work was just how he captured the deep green of the North Carolina summer. And I think you shot this in June of 2022. Um, and I just, for someone who's been in North Carolina my whole life, and as have you, there was just such a power to the way that green looks during June. Can you speak to a bit of what he did as a cinematographer to really just fully capture that with the lens?
He was my MVP. He was the greatest person, a really, really sweet guy and so collaborative. Before we shot it, I gave him a lot of suggestions of photographers and painters that we were looking at, and I appreciate your appreciation of the color because I feel like sometimes it's not captured in a way. It either looks too films that are shot in the South sometimes look oppressively green or oppressively humid in some way. Or then there's lots of things that now are shot in Atlanta, but they're like I don't know if it is anymore, but the first couple of seasons of Stranger Things was shot in
Mhm.
Atlanta, but it takes place in Ohio or Indiana or something. And I kept watching it thinking, this looks Southern to me. It
Right.
doesn't look like, the Midwest. So that, is always interesting to me. I mean, we really wanted to capture it, and he really just caught it. It was an incredibly hot June when we did it. We were shooting in that house most of the time. It had two little room air conditioners that we'd have to turn off when we shot. Um, but he was fantastic, and I spoke to him a lot about that. To me, the most important thing was the performances, the actors. He worked very quickly. At one time, we didn't even have a gaffer to do the lighting for like a week and a half, and he had to do that as well as be the director of photography, and he was the camera operator. So he was incredible to me.
Yeah. And I know just the entire project has been an immense labor of love for you. And I believe you started development maybe 2019 or so. And then, shortly before filming, you dealt with some major health issues yourself. And then I guess a year after you filmed, you had the actor strikes and the WGA strikes as well. Then I think a distributor kind of you had to go in a separate direction. So I know it's been a major up and down journey for you. But I am just curious for you. Sitting here now that this has reached an audience and is getting recognition from places like the Film Independent Spirit Awards, how this journey has changed you and how it's I guess changed where's your relationship with this project in comparison to other films of yours in your career?
Well, it certainly was it took the longest and was the hardest of anything that I made. And I think it's actually the best thing that I've done in terms of my films. I've written five or six films and directed and written three. And I think this came out really the way I wanted to. So I'm really pleased with it and satisfied with it. However, I can't imagine making another film because this one was so difficult to make. And the state of independent film is really, really tough. And I've written another script actually for Phil Morrison to direct. And I don't want to produce it, and I don't want to raise the money, and I don't want to direct it. So, it'd be great if he can get that going, but I don't know if it's possible. Um, I'm really glad that it's gotten some audience. Of course, when you do something and you're satisfied or you think that it's good, and particularly the performances, I think are so wonderful. I just really hope that people do get to see it and do enjoy it. And you always want that to be bigger, but we're a tiny little film. Music Box Films is the distributor, and they're a terrific distributor, but they're not a big distribution. They're certainly not a Warner Brothers or A24 or a Neon or something like that. And so they it's just an uphill battle to try to get it out there. And I keep hoping more people will get to see it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you think a physical release for this film would be in the cards?
What do you mean?
Oh, like a Blu-ray DVD.
Yeah, that's coming, actually.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
I just saw the cover of both of the Blu-ray and the DVD. Yeah, so that's coming.
Well, that's
Oh,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, because I'm a huge physical media fan, as you can see by my wall behind me. So I'll
Yeah.
make sure to add that to my library.
Yeah, I got to do a director's commentary, which was really fun to tell a lot of these backstories of what happened and what I was intending. So I really enjoyed doing
Okay.
that.
Well, yeah, that's great to hear because I love commentaries, love special features, which those are increasingly a lost art, unfortunately. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Oh, yeah. Well, Angus, I really do appreciate your time, and it's really been a privilege. And congrats on really such a beautiful film that moved me and reached me and a few friends of mine as well. We've talked about it. It's one of our favorites of the year. So, thank you for bringing this to us. And I know you said that you don't see yourself making another film, but you know. You have my you have my support, and I hope
Thanks.
you perhaps at least consider it. So,
Yeah. Can you write a big check?
well, unfortunately, I can probably write about $10 check or so. I don't think you can make
A little
much
bit
money.
helps. Anyway, well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. And do as much as we can get the word out and get more people watching it. It's fantastic. So thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Well, you have a great day, Angus, and Lisa. Thank you for helping setting this up. Well, thank you so much again to filmmaker Angus Maclachlan, director of A Little Prayer, for sharing his time with us here on Maybe the Movies. Thank you to Music Box Films for setting up this conversation and getting Angus on the show. And just thank you to Angus for what he's done for filmmaking here in North Carolina. And as we know, as audience members of Maybe the Movies know that we love to support our own here. And North Carolinians who are continuing to make beautiful work. They are very much, they're very much present around us. And sometimes you just got to go out and looking for them. And so thank you to Angus McLaughlin, and thank you to everyone watching and listening. As we spoke about A Little Prayer, I highly recommend you seek that one out. Available now on digital and VOD. And be on the lookout for that announcement about the physical release on DVD and Blu-ray with some special features, it appears, some audio commentaries from Angus himself, something that I'm always a massive fan of. So thank you again for tuning into the conversation, and we will see you next time on Me Being the Movies. And until next time, that's a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.